Well, good afternoon, everybody. They've asked me to give a demonstration on string instrument making, traditional string instrument making, and I'd like to start off with a little bit of history about string instruments. I believe the first string instrument might have been a bow and arrow. And I got a bow right here, and I got a little arrow. I didn't want a real arrow because I didn't want to risk anybody's life. But I think back in the day when people had to hunt for their food, well, a lot of people still do, but they might have had to shoot the arrow, kill their prey, and then when they were sitting around eating whatever it was they shot, somebody might have sat there and started making a noise on the bow. Well, you can't hear much like that, can you? So what you need is a vibrating string and a resonating box. And I'm going to use my mouth as a resonating box and do that pretty regularly. And we'll see how much difference it makes. It makes a little bit of a difference. And this gets called Appalachian mouth bow. People used to hit it with a stick and sing a song with it. I'm going to try to sing a song called Cripple Creek while I'm hitting this with a stick. Try to do this without feeding back. I'm going up Cripple Creek, going in a run, going up Cripple Creek, having a little fun. Going up Cripple Creek, going in the world, going up Cripple Creek, see my girl. Girls on Cripple Creek, I just grown, jump on the board like a dog on a bone. Cross the Cripple Creek before I sleep, Cripple Creek's wide, Cripple Creek's deep. So that's traditional mouth bow. Thank you very much. But what I come to find out, my mouth isn't big enough to give good resonance. So what I did was I have a gourd. The other half of this gourd is actually a small mandolin, which is in somebody else's hands right now. But if you put the mouth bow in a gourd or a larger resonating chamber, it makes a huge difference. So this is a mouth bow now attached to a gourd. The volume approximately tenfold right there, and it's kind of hard to hold it there, so I'm going to take a newfangled clamp and clamp it in place. And what you have now is the predecessor of almost all the string instruments that we have. You got a stick with a string attached to it and a body. You could have, it could be a mandolin, it could be a guitar, it could be anything, except this only has the one string. And I don't have to stick it in my mouth because the gourd can be played like a drum, or you can play the string. Old Joe Bob preacher's son, oh you, preach his game all over the town. Old Joe Bob, he had a mule. Called this mule Morgan Brown. Every tooth in that mule's head 16 inches round. Very well, oh, Joe Clark, very well I say. Travel you 1,000 miles to hear your fiddle play. Very well, oh, Joe Clark, very well I say. Travel you 1,000 miles to hear your banjo play. So it's starting to be like an instrument. So what I've done is tried to think of how were these people back in the mountains or in other places making instruments. And the gourd, a lot of people around here grow gourds, and after they dry them out, it makes a really good body for an instrument. So I was trying to think of some other things you could use for a body of an instrument. And because it's not as loud as the gourd was, I'll just hold it here. But it still amplifies the string pretty well. A little bit better. And let's see if I got this one sitting over here. I didn't want to get too close to me because my friend Steve Bales brought me this today. Snapping turtle shell. It's still got some meat stuck to it, so it's not quite as savory as it's going to be in a couple more weeks. I haven't tried this out yet, but I'm interested to see how the snap turtle shell sounds. So let's see. It's got some snap to it. So I think I might try to make an instrument out of that eventually. So what happened was, the fellow had a bow and decided to make music with it. Then if you had two bows, this ain't gonna be pretty because this is a homemade bow. And they wouldn't have had string. This is a guitar string on here. They would have had animal fibers. And this is hair off of a Mongolian horse. So the Mongolian horse hair is what gets used in fiddle bows today. Let me stick it back in the cord. So now basically what we have is two bows, one rubbing up against the other. And you got a one-string fiddle right there. But it's hard to play a real tune with just one string. So I started thinking of some other boxes you could use. And I came up with this right here is a wine box. And I made a dulcimer out of the wine box. And the wine box has a pretty nice tone to it. And I'm going to see if Jeannie's been helping me with these demonstrations for, well, twice now. And I'm going to get another box here. That's a cigar box, a little skinny small cigar box. We should be in D, I think. There's a pig stuck in the middle. Stuck up in the string.
Actually, I love the snow.
Can you drop it? So now the dulcimer and the mandolin, this is a little four-string mandolin, they got frets put in there to make it easier to play. And I'll talk about putting frets in just here in just a minute. But let's see if we're in key. Give me a D chord. That's close enough for what we're doing. So we'll do an old song by Stephen Foster called Oh Susanna. I saw Susanna Gallo coming around the hill. A buckwheat cake was in her mouth, a tear was in her eye. I says, I'm coming from the south, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, well, don't you cry for me. For I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Oh, Susanna, well, don't you cry for me. For I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Hard the day I left, the weather it was dry. Sun so high I froze to death. Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, well, don't you cry for me. For I come from Alabama with the banjo on my knee. Oh, Susanna, well, don't you cry for me. For I come from Alabama with the banjo on my knee. All right. Thank you. So in theory, you can make an instrument out of anything that has a string attached to it and a vibrating box. And I said I was going to talk about putting frets in, and that's the only thing that's really crucial. To get an instrument to play halfway in tune, you have to measure the frets out very carefully, otherwise it's never going to sound right. And I'll show you a stick that's going to be another. This is going to be another dulcimer right here eventually. And I've kind of started cutting the slots out in it. And that right there is a special saw. It's a fretting saw. And it's got a thing to control the depth, to how far down you cut it. And it's the right width for frets. So basically, after you got it marked out, usually I clamp it to a table to do this. Clamp it down there. Cut the slots to the right depth. I'm just going to stop with two of them right there. And I'll show you some fretting material. I buy this from a guitar supply shop. So That's a foot-long piece of fret material. And everybody has a different way of doing it. The way I do it is I stick the fret material down in the slot. I need my glasses for this. Stick it down in the slot. Tap it down in place. Oh, I missed. Alrighty, so then, so I don't scar the fret up, I'll take a block of wood and tap it in the rest of the way. And that looks like it's seated in there pretty well. Come on out. Then a pair of nippers, just to nip it off. Now right now it's got some pretty sharp edges on it, and if you buy a cheap guitar, you're going to feel it always has sharp edges on it. But what I'll do is I'll take a series of files and file it down to make it nice and smooth so nobody cuts themselves. I'll try to do one more fret, then I'll be ahead of the game when I actually make an instrument out of this. So you tap that thing in the slot, get your piece of wood, or if you have a nylon tip hammer, you can do it with a nylon tip hammer. There's two frets in the neck.
How do you know how far to put them apart?
I was just gonna talk about that. But, oh, you're back here? Because each instrument has a different scale length. Can I see that mandolin for a second? This mandolin is 13 inches scale. This is going to be 26-inch scale, so it's going to be twice as long. And the frets are going to be spaced a lot differently on a shorter scale instrument. So I have a chart at home that I've written up for myself. It's a little notebook that has all the different instruments that I'm going to make in it. And it tells you how far apart each fret should be. So I usually use millimeters because it's easier to measure millimeters. They're marked off in smaller increments. So I usually measure the millimeters out, and I'll take a razor blade and put a mark on the neck where we can cut. And then I'll lay a square across that mark and razor blade all the way across it, and that gives me a starting slot for the saw. But it's very crucial that you get it as close and as accurate as you can. And that's the only thing where I'm a little nitpicking about, is try to get the slots accurate so that the frets are in the right place and they're playing in tune. So that's how you fret an instrument right there, except you got a few more to go to do it right. Oh yeah, well I brought my file. Usually I'll file the ends off. Make it nice and smooth. That's not too bad. And then you're not going to end up bleeding when you try to play the guitar or whatever instrument it's going to be. But on a fiddle, you don't have to worry about that because it's got no frets. The only thing you got to worry about in making a fiddle is a whole bunch of other things. Because the fiddle has a curved neck. It's a radius fingerboard. So you've got to get that radius cut in there, and I usually use a saw and a series of wood rasps to get that curve put in there. But you don't have to put frets in it. Now this cigar box is made out of this fiddle is made out of cigar box, handmade by the Sosa family in Miami, Florida. And I got the homemade bow right there. It's kind of raggedy looking, but those are genuine horse hairs, either off the horse's tail or off the horse's mane. And it's a piece of mahogany that's bent to hold the tension on the horse hairs. And let's see if I can play a tune on it. What's that? Yeah, I don't need it. I've got it all memorized, I think. Can we play it in G? Shove that pig's foot further in the fire. This is an old fiddle tune called Shove That Pig's Foot Further in the Fire on the cigar box fiddle and the homemade horsehair bow, and Jeannie's on the cigar box mandolin. It'll start hopefully sound almost like real music. Oh, I'm on the wrong tune, aren't I? can't think of the one I just mentioned, so we switched his. So you can see that folks sitting around before they could order instruments out of Sears and Roebuck or Montgomery Ward's, they would make their own instruments out of anything that they had available. And I'll demonstrate a couple of the other instruments that I think had a history in this area. Because of course before us Europeans came over here, there was a Native American contingency that lived here, and they would have played things like the mouth bow that I showed you. Native American tribes also used the mouth bow, but drums was a large popular instrument with Native Americans. But also they would have made flutes. I know this is supposed to be stringed instruments, but I'm talking about some woodwind instruments now. So flute would have been made out of any kind of a hollow piece. And this is a piece of bamboo. This is a flute that I did not make, but I bought it so I could use as a model for some of the ones that I did make. But a piece of bamboo that's already hollow, you don't have to hollow it out or anything. And the flute, can you play an A minor? So what I tried to do was find materials that are available to us today. Bamboo is available to us today, but not around here. So I made one out of some 3/4 inch copper plumbing pipe, and it sounds a little bit different than the bamboo flute. And let's see if we can, let's try to look at this thing. We're very strange. Now this right here is regular plumbing pipe that was left over from a plumbing job I had to do in my house. There you go. But a lot of the settlers in this area were Scotch, Irish, and German settlers. And in Ireland, there's a tradition of penny whistles. Penny whistles, they call them penny whistles because young lads would stand out on the street corner, play tunes, and folks would throw pennies to them so that they could get the food or whatever it was. So this is a Irish type penny whistle that I made also out of plumbing pipe. But this is PVC plastic which is a lot easier to work with than working in metal. So the PVC plumbing pipe penny whistle, how about St. Anne's Reel? Not deep. So that's a thrift store jewelry box. Would you play the guitar for me? Alright. Would you like to use a pick? Alright. So Jeannie's going to play this jewelry box guitar. And I'll do a tune on the fiddle. How about that? What he tunes do you so much? Alright, let's do Step Around John. One other thing that I use often is a cookie tin, or in this case it's a kiwi shoe shine kit tin. And I made a little ukulele out of this one. I'll play a traditional ukulele song on this one. Has anybody seen my gal? If you run into 5'2", covered with fur, diamond rings and all those things, bet your life it isn't her. Could she laugh? Could she woo? Could she? Has anybody seen? Has anybody seen? Has anybody seen my gal? Yeah! Thank you very much. If you have any questions, about these instruments or some of the techniques I've used, feel free to ask me about them. I'm just about out of time. Little bit back, all right. But I would like to tell you that at 3:45, Andrew McKnight will be coming up here on the stage. So there's some more music to come here, and following Andrew McKnight, there'll be a group of friends of mine playing old-time fiddle tunes, the Cabin Jammers, with fiddles and banjos and mandolins and guitars coming up here to play some old-time music. So thank you all very much.